Yo, and hello, everybody. Mike here, baseball collector. That's Chris Sewell, baseball collector, investor, dealer, in that order. Morning, Chris.
What's going on, man? No, afternoon or afternoon for me.
Whatever. Still morning. No, I guess not.
Yeah, all's well. How are you?
I'm doing great. You and I have been working on a project for a while now, almost 6 months, 5 months that we've been working.
February, yeah. I think it's coming up on 6 months, yeah.
Yeah, on the Grail collection. And quick recap for anybody that doesn't know, Chris and I should even step back a quick second. John Keating discovered a collection that was going to be acquired by a card shop up in the Philadelphia area. He contacted me. Hey, do you want to go after this? And really, it was for one card. It was for the 33 DeLong Gehrig. That was the whole beginning of it. And it turned in, well, what about the whole collection? And then it turned into, whoa, this is a big deal. I'm going to call my buddy Chris and see if he wants to be a part of this. He reluctantly agreed, and it's been downhill ever since. No, we went up, bought the collection, divided up a lot of things there that we took, and essentially made ourselves whole in terms of value right then and there that night. Right, Chris?
Right, roughly.
And then we had all these other cards, tons of other cards, a lot of other raw cards, a lot of additional cards that we thought were worthy of grading. And so over the next few weeks and months, we started to do that. And I know that we want to talk today about what we did with Greg Morris on the graded card standpoint. We graded a lot more cards than we sold through Greg Morris overall. I don't even know the number. It was, probably close to 400 would be my guess. And ultimately, we either ended up keeping some of those, selling them individually, selling them privately, selling them on Chris's eBay store. And now we're kind of towards the end of this. And we want to go through some of the graded stuff. And Chris, we sent off 259 graded cards to Greg Morris back in, I'm going to need my glasses from this point forward, I think, because I'm old. Back in
August. Not long ago, a month ago, right? Basically.
Yeah. Back in, mid to late August.
Yeah.
What would you, let me tell everybody real quick. We kind of had all these graded cards, 259 of them to be exact. And we had three choices, really. The first choice was to sell them on our own at card shows or in private deals or whatever. The second one was to sell them on Chris's eBay store. And the third was to send them to Greg Morris and consign them through them and let them auction them off. Chris, what would you say are pros and cons to each of those three methods because none of them are bad. It's just, What are you trying to accomplish? So what would you say?
Okay, so if we went like the card show route, then we can avoid fees in many ways. Although you also have fees in other things like paying for the table, but generally avoiding selling fees. You can set your own asking price, and you can hold out for your own asking price. And if you don't like your price, you don't have to sell it. And so you can do that. And if it's the same sort of stuff, if I sold it on my own channel, except you're not avoiding fees. My own eBay store, not avoiding fees there, but you can hold out for your own price. You can look to get more than market value on specific cards if you feel you might be able to. And then the pros and cons going in for Greg Morris were that there's no work to be done. You just send them all, and you basically just have 1 day of shipping, and you're done. Whereas selling 259 cards individually is a lot of work, whether we went the card show route or the eBay route.
And if we hauled them all to a card show somewhere, A, no guarantee we're going to sell them all.
No, definitely not.
And B, people are going to, talk you down, and you're going to end up acquiescing on some cards and probably not getting market value anyway. To me, eBay is the world's greatest marketplace because there are the most eyeballs on it. Is it the absolute max of everything? No. There's roles for different platforms for sure. But I think eBay gives you the best idea of what a card is really worth in that moment. you know,
Yeah.
because if it was worth more, it would sell for more. It's kind of that simple because there's so many people looking at it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that for me, the risk, or what I felt like the risk was with Greg Morris is, wow, he's going to 10-day auction all of these slabs, and they're going to go for what they go for.
Yeah.
And that may or may not be either what we expect or hoped, right?
And there's no holding. Yeah, there's no holding out for your better dollar. If a card sells at 60% of market, it's done. You don't get. There's no takebacks on that.
That's right. But the good, I don't want to gloss over the time factor of how many hours we saved by not having to sell and ship. And
I mean, 260 singles, that would take a long. So if we went the card show route, you would be let's say we priced everything at market value. So we're very, very fairly priced. We would be very lucky to sell, I don't know, 20% of the inventory at a large, let's say the Dallas show.
right.
So that might take years before we've sold through every card. If we went the eBay store route, you would probably get strong prices in the end if you held out for strong prices. But listing 259 cards, 260 cards, one at a time, shipping them all, managing offers. This is a very, very time consuming thing. Mike's a very important person he doesn't have all that much time, and I'm extremely important. So yeah, so, my time is extremely valuable So, yeah.
But our time there is some value to our time. And, Greg Morris has a wonderful reputation on the raw card side, and they command higher prices, no question, on the raw card side. We saw that we sent 700 or 800 raw cards to Greg Morris a couple months ago and did that, a lot of that. And that was very good for us. Again, not having to mess with it, not having to deal with, clawbacks and chargebacks and returns and whatnot. But on the graded side, there's a graded card is a graded card. There's no nuance to Greg Morris assigning it a certain grade like they do on a raw card that people hold it to high esteem. A 6 is a 6. Now, not all 6s are created equal. We all understand that, but they put full scan front and back. You can see the 6, and is it a good 6 to you or not, and you can decide if you want to bid on it. There's not a lot left to the imagination in terms of the value of that card. Most of these were pretty well set. The 259 cards, by the way, were a myriad of stuff. We sent stuff all the way from W517s all the way to what's the latest card? 73.
Yeah,
early 70s stuff that we sent. And so everything in between, cards from the 50s, 60s, 70s, lots of 33 Gaudis, lots of DeLongs, so some high value stuff. What is we'll get to take it. Let's go through some numbers, because I think that's what people really want to see. We're going to be very transparent with this. If there's something that we don't tell you guys that you want to know, we will answer that. First of all, Greg Morris on graded cards charges, if the card sells for under $100, they charge 14% plus $2 per card. So that can get pricey, and we'll get to that later. Versus you selling it yourself on eBay, 13% is what you will typically pay, plus or minus. Versus if the card sells for over $100 or more, it's a flat 12% fee that they charge, which is actually 1% less than you could do. That's higher math right there. 13 versus 12, 1% difference.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do that math. I get it. I'm kind of a savant. So 1%, you save 1%, and again, don't have to do any of the work. So what we did, again, that was our thought. Let's use Greg Morris. And so I have a spreadsheet here that I'm going to share my screen. This is a Google sheet that Chris and I have been operating on for months together. There's a lot of different tabs. This is the Greg Morris sheet. And I'm showing you the end result, and then we'll kind of go through some particular cards. We pre-valued all these. We pre-comped all of these cards. Each of us went through and worked on parts of the list, and we came up with, for the 259 cards, a value of $33,570, was what we thought the market value of those cards were. And Chris, how did we do that?
Well, using recent comps. I was using mostly vintagecardprices.com and adjusting, using the mid of that and then adjusting for more recent sales.
Yeah.
I think you were using mainly eBay sales, right? And most of the cards on here had a lot of comps. They're not, it's not like super rare stuff. Some of the pre-war stuff was a little harder to comp, but a lot of the 50s, 60s, 70s very easy to comp.
Yeah, these weren't rare cards by and large. But 33 grand, that's a lot of money, for 259 cards. And if we had sold them on eBay, this is what this column is here. We would have, if we had gotten full comp for every card, we figured we would have netted a little over $29,000
after fees. Yeah.
After eBay fees. That doesn't include if we undercharge on shipping or, there's some other maybe nitpicky stuff that might come into play.
Returns or who knows.
Right. Dealing with returns. What we ended up selling all the cards for, and there's actually still, I think, 3 cards on because Chris sent an order and I sent an order of cards. And on mine, there's still like 3 more to go over the next few days. Nothing tremendously significant, but we ended up selling everything for $35,300 after Greg Morris fees, $30,474. And so basically and the reason this is different is because some of the other cards that have not sold, it's really because of this, but I'll get into what that is in a second. Wish there was a way for me to blow this up, but 30,500-ish is what we ended up netting from Greg Morris, which ended up being about 13.8% of the total in terms of fees. So I mentioned earlier, 1% difference. It's really not even that much when you consider how many cards we had that sold for over $100, and therefore we're at the lower fee amount of 12%. So basically, Chris, I'll translate this real quick, and then I want you to comment on it.
Yeah.
From what we thought we could get net versus what we got from GMC, from Greg Morris net, we were about $2,200 better off having sent them to Greg Morris, and that's net of fees. What's your initial thought to that?
Yeah, so let me back up a little bit real quick. So I've used Greg Morris quite a bit. I have a great relationship with them. They've sponsored my channel in the past. They don't currently, but that's not because I suspect they may again in the future. I have a great relationship and I've always enjoyed using them. I mainly have sent them raw stuff because they're best known for their raw vintage selling really strong, and that's been my experience. I also have recently started sending them graded, and I didn't really know exactly how it does, so I was sort of not sure what was going to happen here in terms of like what we would expect to sell it ourselves versus what they're going to get for it in auction. And the results here are in my opinion fantastic, because by sending them 260 graded cards, we're netting more than if I had sold them myself one at a time on eBay, which is an incredible result, we're netting more and I'm saving many dozens and dozens of hours of work, and of not fun work, listing stuff on eBay, shipping stuff, this sort of stuff. So really, really dozens and dozens of hours of chores, and we're netting more than we would have. So that's a pretty amazing result.
And I think it's important to point out that this is a larger order. If you were doing 1 or 2 cards, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. You and I were talking about this, and we were like, hey, let's track this really carefully, because this is a big enough sample size of cards to really say overall, is Greg Morris a good way to go? I'm not going to say it's the best way to go. It's a way to go. And we found that was incredibly true in this case, and that typically you're going to do better than you think, than even you think you'll do.
Yeah.
Because this was a record-breaking submission. Just don't use that word lightly. I will get to that later, but that's a teaser. This was record-breaking.
That's a teaser for me too, because I don't actually. Mike's teased that to me. I don't actually know what that officially means at this moment in time yet either.
You will shortly. So what we did was we for each card, let's take this last card, this Nolan Ryan. It was a 6 MC, and we thought, okay, $40 is about what it'll go for, which
If
means
I
we're
were to say sell it myself on eBay.
right, or at a show, right?
Yeah,
Now
or
at
a
a
show.
show you get all $40, right? So, but if someone didn't try to, I'll give you 35, and you go, okay,
Yeah.
But eBay net would have been $34.80. The card actually sold for $49.50, hammer price on Greg Morris. We ended up getting $38.57. But we still, even with the higher fees that are associated with a card under $100, we still ended up almost $4 on that card, better than we would have had we sold it ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's a 10% difference, that matters, right?
Yeah.
It adds up. Now there's lots where we were negative. You see these negatives, anything that's a negative, we would have been better off selling it ourselves. But I think it's important not to focus on the one, but to more focus on the whole. Like, yeah, you're going to always miss. If we would have sold them ourselves, we wouldn't have gotten fair market value, truthfully, right? So on a lot of these cards, and so you just kind of look at it overall, and overall we were up $2,200 better than we were. The annoying part to me, and this would have happened either way, Greg Morris or not, Greg Morris or us, we had close to $2,000 of either canceled bids or unpaid cards to this point. Now, some of those still might get paid, but we're long enough now where I'm kind of like, crap, but that's $2,000. What typically, Chris, happens to those cards through Greg Morris if they go canceled or unpaid?
Yeah, that's not a big deal. It just delays things. If they get canceled or unpaid, they'll just relist it a week or two later. So the ones that haven't been paid for yet or have got canceled for whatever reason, I'm not sure why things would get canceled. Maybe a bidder wins the bid and then that shouldn't happen much, but I guess maybe it happens once in a while. But yeah, they'll just get relisted in auction again in a week or two.
Okay. I do have our grading costs here. That's not complete. It's probably a little over probably 5,000 to 6,000 is what we spent to grade these cards, but we were going to do that anyway. So that doesn't really even play into the net profit on each card, really, because to me, we were going to grade them either way. It's where were we going to sell them, right? So the grading fee to me is kind of a sunk cost.
The grading fee is definitely a sunk cost in the terms of should we sell them on eBay or on Greg Morris. It's irrelevant for that.
It is irrelevant. So here's a 61 Maris, for example, that was a PSA 6. I thought when we comped it about $150 card, it sold for $161. So we ended up actually $11.62 in the black on that.
Yeah, and so this is something you taught me because I didn't even realize this. You explained the fee structure for Greg Morris before. If you hit that $100 threshold, it's a big deal because you're now paying a lower fee than you would pay otherwise. Whereas if you don't hit the $100 threshold on an individual card, you're paying a higher fee.
Yeah. So right here is a great. So the net gain on the Maris was $11. It's not a good example. We found cards where they sold for significantly more than $100, and the fee was the same as a card that sold for like $60. The Greg Moore, and it's like, well, then just sell all the bigger cards because it's a lower. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, it's really when you get into like some of like the $20 sales where you realize how big a percentage the fee is. Do you have a $20 sale available there? I'm looking at one on my sheet. Like we had an item sell for 27 and we're only netting 19. So I don't know what that is. That's like a 30%, 35% fee or something.
Yeah, that haircut gets bigger.
Yeah.
You don't want to send lower end stuff to Greg Morris. Here's a $26 card. Oh wait, that's what we thought. It ended up a $30 card that I thought was 30 went for 47. So that's a great example of. But you're right. The cheaper stuff, there was plenty of that where, obviously we even found and discovered through the auction process, some of these cards we should have never graded in the first place.
Yeah. That's going to happen. That's going to happen when you send in 400 cards.
True. What was I going to? Okay. Let's talk about some big hits and some big misses. Like, where did we do really well, and where did we kind of disappoint? And I'm going to pull up. Let's see, share screen.
Wow, yeah, I'm looking at some of the nice big ones.
All right, so this card here really shocked me. 1933 Gaudi Moberg.
Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, there it is. Yeah.
I keep having to sneeze, but I'm not sneezing. So, let's go to this mode. There we go.
Okay.
Can be like that. So, this 33 Gaudi Moberg shocked me. Obviously, a popular player. Catcher was a spy. You know, everybody knows Moberg's story, but this is a card that I think I was kind of shocked with where it ended up. We had thought it was going to be a $500 card, which is a lot. You know, it's a good card. Where we would have ended up with $435. It ended up selling for $746.96. So almost $750.
50% higher than our comp.
50% higher than our comp, and yay, right? So we were off there. It's funny, we missed on most everything. Our comps were off. Everything sold for below what we comped it for. Like a lot. 55 we only got right 45% where we hit. 55% we were wrong. So more than half we were off.
We comped poorly.
We comped poorly. What do you think that says about comps in general?
Well, I mean, comps are just a best guess. Like a lot of these people often say, like, what's your card worth? And you go by comps, and you're just using the data to come up with your best guess. That's all a comp is. It's not a hard number. I think a lot of people think a card is worth X. It's not. It's worth what somebody will pay for it. That's an old cliche, but it's true. And comps are just your best guess as to what the next person will pay for it.
So this is the highest selling. Here's our record breaker. One of our record breakers.
Oh, it's the record. Okay, this is one of them. Yeah.
This is the highest selling PSA 2 Moberg ever.
So at $747.
That's a new world record price for a PSA 2 Moberg 33 Gaudi.
Nice.
You're welcome.
So if I was listing this in my store, we would have assumed it was $500. I would have put a price tag of $600 on it, and taken offers down to $475, something like that,
and would have sold it happily. Truthfully,
would have sold it happily for $500 or $475. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Dizzy Dean here. And this is what I love about this. Is a PSA 1. It's got a pinhole in the top center, rounded corners, but it's a nice looking PSA 1, but still a PSA 1. 34 Gaudi, not his rookie. 33 Gaudi is his rookie, I believe. So this is a second year Dizzy Dean, and
tough card, yeah.
But a nice card, right? Mm-hmm. And this card sold, we thought, for $250. That's what I comped it at, because that's what other ones went for, and it ended up selling for $456. A new world record, a new record high price for a Dizzy Dean 34 Gaudi PSA 1.
That's cool. Yeah, got some record breakers here.
But that's dang near twice what we thought.
Yeah.
And had it not, so what we found is the wins were way better than the misses. Even though we missed more often, the wins were so much better. They just overwhelmed to the tune of $2,000, like we saw earlier. Yeah. All right, you want another record holder? I know you like records.
Yeah, bring me. Let me see some world record holders here.
Oh, not the right card. Not the right card. Not that card. Wait, hold on.
Where are we? These aren't Grail cards.
These aren't. There we go.
Okay.
34, 36 Diamond Stars Pie Trainer. This is a 1936.
Pie Trainer.
This was actually a card. This is a PSA. I'm not PSA. SGC 4. This was a card that came back recolored from PSA in the original order when we sent it off. This is a card I dropped off at the National. Had them take a look at it, and sure enough, not recolored according to SGC. In fact, it's a 4, and which is a great grade for a card from the 30s, I think.
Yeah.
And so I was thrilled to get that back. And so we had 16 cards out of the 259 that were actually SGC that were PSA rejects. We resubmitted to SGC, all came back.
They all passed, right?
They all came back in slabs. A couple of them were authentic altered
Yeah, okay, right.
or whatever, but they all came back. This card sold for
$452.
$452, and we thought $220 on an SGC4.
So more than double.
That's the most an SGC4 has ever sold for, is $452. Well over 100% more than we thought that it should have gone for. And again, we would have sold it for $220 at a show, and yay, right?
Yeah.
Got one more to show on this, if I can get. Okay.
This wasn't a record. This was not a record, though, was it?
No.
Yeah.
We're done with the record. You got 3 records.
Okay, those were our 3 records. Okay. Some of the throw ones might have been records too, but I don't know.
Very true, but didn't look all of them up.
Yeah.
So this was a 41 play ball that did get the authentic altered from PSA, and up here at the top is a pinhole that had been kind of either in. I think it looks like it was filled in with, whiteout or something.
Okay, that's the white altered.
And a huge crease along the top right here.
Yeah.
And so when I first comped this card, I put $100. I ended up fixing that, thinking I was way off. But I still thought only $400. It's an altered. Maybe that was a little bit of personal bias coming into it, because I'm not an altered card kind of fan.
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up, even though we thought 400, it ended up selling for 561.
Yep.
So great. Somebody else loved it, and glad that they did.
Yeah.
This was actually the biggest winner, believe it or not. 1931 W517 Mickey Cochran.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Hand cut card, 2 with a mark. And I guess there's a big market for these. I didn't really know, truthfully. I had comped it at $100 because of the mark and the qualifier, and there just aren't a lot of comps on a card like this. These don't come up very often.
Yeah. Do you remember the comp? Like, was it fairly recent, or?
I don't think so. I really don't think.
Yeah.
My comp could have been off too. Like, I'm at least acknowledging that.
Yeah.
But this card ultimately sold for $372, 240 more net than we thought we were going to get, which was the biggest winner in terms of dollars.
Or percentage over comp.
Yes, it is. Both are true. Yes. Both are true. But we weren't. These are all winners, right? And good ones at that. But we didn't win on everything. Not Ted Simmons. Thought I had.
No, we didn't win on everything for sure.
No, I don't.
Did we win on that mantle?
My family. The losses we had. The losses. There were some cards that just didn't live up to expectations. A couple of the Gaudies. A DeLong Mickey Cochran. Ironically, Mickey Cochran was the biggest winner, and a Mickey Cochran card was the biggest loser.
Oh, is that true? Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
There was the DeLong 3, and I don't have a picture of it, but it went for $461, which was great, but we thought $575 was a fair comp, and so we were a little off there by about $100.
Yeah, there were definitely more. Well, I think you had said this. There were more single cards that we actually netted less than we would have if we had sold them ourselves. But overall, the hits were so much bigger and most of the misses were pretty small.
Correct.
And something we both noticed very clearly was that the better the cards, the better they did. And you phrased it really well. Greg Morris gets a premium for high-end stuff.
They do.
And this data clearly showed that. And this is a pretty big sample size, 260 cards.
Yeah. If that's our biggest loss, less than $100 than what we thought we could have gotten.
Yeah.
in terms of dollars, not that big a deal.
Right.
Again, would we have sold it for $575 at a show? Maybe, maybe not. It probably sits there, truthfully. How many people are looking for a DeLong Mickey Cochran? And so the
3.
vast audience that you can get through eBay and through even further with Greg Morris, more people are looking at Greg Morris's store than they are yours. No offense, right?
Oh no, for sure. Yeah.
And so that it matters over card, not again, one at a time, but if you look at it cumulatively, it made a significant difference.
Well,
So
and especially in auctions. I mean, auctions, number of eyeballs critical.
Yeah. So what are some takeaways from you? Like, what are some conclusions that you think we can draw from this?
Well, this is sort of what I probably, if I bought this collection myself, and you weren't involved, this is probably what I would have done. Is roughly this. Send most of these to Greg Morris, because for me, time is very important. So it sort of validates that, because I had never really done a study to see if that actually was the right thing. I just knew it saved me a lot of time, and I probably wasn't losing that much, so it was worth it for me. But here it's saving a lot of time, and you're actually making money, so that validates that significantly for me.
Yeah, that's something you think you'd do going forward even more. Like,
oh yeah, no, I'll definitely be using them moving forward. Yeah, and actually, I tend not to send them my highest end stuff. I like to send those to vaults and price them real high and sit on them. But this sort of, I don't know. I may consider sending them some of my higher end stuff as it comes into.
What I found, you and I one night, I enjoyed this process, truthfully.
Yeah. Well, let me tell that story. Yeah, Mike did not just enjoy it; he was like having so much fun, because all the auctions, would end on the same. Within an hour, there'd be 50 auctions ending, one a minute type of thing. And Mike would call me and be like, "Hey, they're ending," and we would watch them. We would watch them together. It was actually very fun. Yeah.
What do we comp this at? Okay, come on.
Okay, come on, it's at 40. Come on, let's get over 40. Come
on,
on,
Reggie. Come on.
Yeah.
So where would you, based on this data that we've collected now, the conclusion I think to me is, and see if you would agree, over $100, 100 to 5 to 6, 700. Greg Morris is a great place to sell your cards.
Yeah, your vintage cards. Yeah, your vintage.
Yeah, your vintage, right? Yeah, not modern. For sure. Graded vintage does very well at Greg Morris. If you look at it, again, we had cards that I thought would go for more that didn't, and what do you do? And it allowed us to sell them all in one fell swoop. There's no, you go to a Dallas show, you don't sell them all. Then you have to pay for another Dallas show or another Chantilly show or wherever. Mm-hmm. How much do you ultimately spend trying to, move through this inventory? Versus here, we were done in 10 days, 12 days total, something like that.
And it was fun.
And we just sat back and collect a check, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything. So it's super. And tell me if I know this right. Greg Morris does not send you a 1099 at the end of the year? Or will
I'm not sure. I don't know. Not sure, actually, to be honest.
You've done them before, right? Like in 2023 and stuff like that.
I report everything, so it wouldn't matter whether they send me a 1099 or not. I would report it, but I don't know.
You're such a good American. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
For paying all of your taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any other conclusions you drew from this?
No. Again, for me, it was very very good result. I think a lot of the things we comped at $30 would go for 20, and then after fees you're collecting $14, and it's very easy to look at that and not be happy. But again, if you said it at the beginning, you got to look at this as a whole. As a whole, it's a fantastic result. If you nitpick individual cards, much like when you're sending in this many cards for grading, if you got to look at the order as a whole. If you nitpick individual cards, you'll find lots of cards you weren't happy with the grades on. Same thing here. There'll be lots of cards we weren't happy with the sale on, but as a whole, it was great.
Agreed. So this pretty much gets rid of just about it. We have a few straggler cards in the Grail collection. I have a few sets. You would probably have some additional stuff still to get rid of, but this kind of gets us 90 98% of the way through the Grail collection.
Well, yeah, and in terms of cards that are co-owned by the two of us, it's down to just 5 cards now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so what's coming up for you? I know you're going to tell everybody what you're going to do as a kind of a finale to the Grail collection.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a summary video, sort of like my adventures in card dealing video. Well, I'll summarize everything. I'll summarize the actual day, how it came to be, the day that it happened, what happened that day, what our plans were, and then ultimately what the numbers look like, how much we paid, how much we collected, what we're keeping, and all that. And we have, well, Mike kept amazing data on his stuff. I kept sort of rough estimate data on my stuff, but it's pretty good data, so we'll be able to break down the numbers really well.
Yeah, so Chris will break down how he did personally in the collection, how I did. He'll break down my numbers as well on his video. I'm not afraid to share that. I think everybody out there that has followed along with the Grail collections know we did really well with this, and that is absolutely true. And the best part about it, and I'll say it again, is hanging out, getting to know you better, Chris. Working with you was so super easy. You're incredibly knowledgeable. We were able to bounce ideas off each other, and I had a blast doing this. And John Keating was great, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. The same here. Yeah, working with you has been amazing, and I hope we get to work together many times again in the future, and with Keating too. We had a great time at his house.
We did. That was one of my favorite days in the hobby. Period.
Yeah, me too. Definitely.
Like ever.
Way
certainly
up there.
top 3, top 5, no question.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and Joe showing up, and all fun. And again, you've been amazing to work with, so I appreciate all that you've done to make all this happen. You had a lot of insights and ideas, and now we'll just get rid of those last 5 cards and move on to the next one.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. And you're all right too, I guess.
Well, just get your butt down here to a Dallas show and hang out with me and Jeremy, and you got to come over to the house.
I know. We'll do that soon, of course.
And you'll get to see stuff like my 85 Topps Ted Simmons.
Dude, I love that. I probably appreciate that more than anyone else.
Yeah. I got some Burt Blyleven's too, or Don Sutton's.
Don Sutton's, yeah. Wait,
well,
you stop at 89, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for following along with this collection. Hopefully this gave you some insight into some things. If you have additional questions, please put them below. I'll do my best to answer them. We're kind of laying it all out there and letting you guys know how it went. So at least on the Greg Morris side. And Chris will follow up with a video kind of showing you the overall Grail collection experience and how it worked out, both the finances and the fun. We'll talk to you guys soon. Yep. Keep collecting.